You were talking about the learning space having such a potential. Tell me a little bit more about the landscape of learning as a segment. What is learning business in India when you're looking at enterprise?
We see a trend which transcends just HR. The trend is movement from services to products. And when you move from services to products, you go from commodity to value. That is happening in every space of learning today. You look at Khan Academy. It's breaking existing models of how learning has been delivered. It's saying, why do you have teachers delivering content in classroom? Classroom should be for discussion. If you look at something like Facebook, it made a lot of sense in the consumer space, and now enterprise are going social. So because MindTickle is very focused on the enterprise learning space, I can tell you that all these concepts are disrupting how employees learn and companies train their employees. Companies in India traditionally have had assembly line approach to learning. You have an inflow of employee, they get stamped with certain course delivery and certification, out goes the employee. They're starting to question right from the CEO saying, how can learning be a strategic lever for my company? How can it be a differentiator? How can it be a competitive advantage? And commodity learning is not going to help. So with combination of all these factors, we see one, the spend on learning increasing, plus technology is enabling agility in learning. At MindTickle, we have looked at all this, and we believe there is a product story here. There is a story where you can take instructional design and productize it so that you're not reinventing the wheel every time. You can take social gamification and mobile concepts and incorporate that into training. I think it's not just MindTickle. This is going to be a new phase of entrepreneurs and solutions which are going to help the CLOs and the CEOs address learning as a strategic imperative as opposed to a process checkpoint. This person was trained, stamped, done. You're going to see innovation come from companies which don't have a very large hiring volume, but the impact of each employee is very high. That is one area where you'll see a lot of innovation. So companies such as our customers, SAP, companies such as Yahoo, these companies put a lot of value to the impact each person brings to the table. They spend a lot of time recruiting them. It just makes sense for them to spend a lot of time ensuring the productivity and that these employees are up to speed. The good news is we're already starting to see early majority. We are starting to see traditional business houses such as Tata's and Bajaj put their confidence into these concepts. There are some segments which are extremely ripe for innovation. If you look at the BPO industry, although they hire in large volumes, the impact of each employee, their assets are people. So they are going to start innovating. We're already starting to see that. Gamification is something we are very bullish about. I think the social layer has been built. When the gamification layer is built in an enterprise, the confluence of the two is going to amplify the value creation.
Do you see that only in the learning space when it comes to people potential, or you actually think that from service to product will actually happen across the HR service provider?
I come from a consulting background, and I was speaking with some of my ex-colleagues. A lot of CHROs are on notice from the CFO. So it's very interesting. CFOs has asked CHRO, either prove your value and prove that HR is a strategic function or be outsourced. We are going to take the whole HR process and give another specialist firm to manage it. Or prove to me that HR has strategic value. In this scenario, this is applicable across the board. HRs are looking at how the companies can be more connected. How can we create the neural networks of learning inside the organization? And even areas like performance. So there was a company which was innovating with gamification in the area of performance management. It's now part of Salesforce.com. They brought the whole notion of why does feedback have to be given just once every year or once every 6 months? Why can't feedback be a regular process? So once there is, I would say, pressure on the CHROs to demonstrate strategic value, they're going to start looking at what is the norm. They're going to break the norm. They're going to try a few things. Few things will work. Few things may not work. But that's going to create open doors for more innovation. For a CHRO who had a certain pedigree, they probably had the best of their training at the best schools. But that becomes irrelevant in much shorter times. Earlier, it would be relevant for 20 years. These days, they have to reinvent themselves and their thinking every couple of years. So we're already starting to see a lot of new forums where heads of HR, CLOs get together and they engage with the provider community, they engage with academia. That whole exchange of ideas is not just happening offline. There are so many LinkedIn groups where there's so much activity. So because there is access to information and it's being democratized, we see this change happening a lot sooner. And there'll be some species which will go extinct, but I'm sure this is going to create a better evolution of the CHRO, if we were to term it as a species. There's Darwin working here as well.